Hey everybody, Mark Masters here. We got Dobie Maxwell in the house. We're going to have an incredible conversation today, stretching back to the 1980s about comedy. I'm excited about it. This is Always Booking Comedy. It's every Monday night. It's Christmas, everybody. This was pre-taped, so your live questions, I don't know, find a way to reach out to Dobie on Facebook or email me. We'll get them answered, but we're not really taking live questions on this pre-taped episode. Dobie, how are you today?
Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad, Happy Shaka Khan, Kwanzaa,
nice.
Whatever it is of your choice of celebration, man.
I love it. I love it. Have you ever done comedy in Spanish? Speaking of Feliz Navidad.
I did a couple of cruise ships, and a lot of times the staff is Spanish on there, and I am very Midwestern American Caucasian, and nothing against bilingual comedy. It's just not something I can do.
Got it. I'm running my first Spanish language comedy show in March.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I've known Carmen Lynch. Have you heard of her? She's she's been on Letterman, Colbert, Ferguson. She's a regular at the Comedy Cellar in New York City.
It's amazing. I mean, no disrespect to her, but it's so many comics that have done things. I've been doing it going on 40 years and done a lot of things too. Because I've never heard of you before.
It's crazy how, really, that's a great example. She's been on Conan, Comedy Central, and people in the business don't know who she is. But she did you know Tom Segura also speaks fluent Spanish? And does
I did not know that. I had seen him. Now him, I know. I think he's very funny. I didn't know he spoke Spanish.
Yeah, he sells out like 40,000 people arenas now. So and what's crazy about that is a lot of people don't even know who Tom Segura is. You go into like a Home Depot and say like, hey, have you ever heard of Tom Segura? No, never heard of him.
I think it's the best of all worlds, to be honest with you. You can be a star on stage and then kind of slink out. You know who Jake Johansson is? You probably do. A lot of people don't. I think he's got 37 Letterman appearances.
Yeah.
Great guy. I mean, he's a good looking guy, looks great on TV. I don't know why
he was supposed to be George Costanza on Seinfeld.
Really?
Yeah, he missed out on that.
I did not know that. I think he would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
And I did my first Craig Ferguson. That was my first network shot. And he called me and was so nice. And I'm not saying we're buddy. We're friends. We worked together several times at Zany's in Chicago. And he was just gushing and effervescent. I say, buddy, not only thank you, but you've been on 37 times on Letterman. And Steve Martin said he was on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson in the 70s, and it was 12 or 13 times he was on before people started to recognize his face, didn't know his name. Hey, guy, I know you somewhere. Yeah. So it's hard to be a star.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, I'm running this Spanish show, and that's on my mind because today I was setting up the ticketing for it, and like my Spanish is like third grade level. So I'm trying to make it friendly to the people purchasing the tickets who probably are bilingual, but maybe only speak Spanish. And I'm a little bit out of my depth.
No, I think it's cool that you're even trying something like this because I think niches are more important now than ever before. Used to be you had a comedy club. Now, what kind is, you got a restaurant. What is it? And I think the mistake that comedians make, and I'm going to go off on a tangent, it's a short one here, is they always say, well, who do you think you appeal to? Anyone that loves to laugh. Bad. You have a restaurant. Who do you appeal to? Anyone that loves to eat. No, is it a fast food restaurant? Is it a sushi place? Is it an Italian restaurant? I think comedians have to be more compartmentalized now, and that's good because comedy tastes have evolved over the years.
Yeah, it's good for branding to be known as.
Totally is, and where you can get your work too.
Yeah,
if you can put together a Spanish or bilingual show.
You're totally right because the people who I know who are most successful right now, there's a guy I know, Vinny Montez, out of Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah,
he's a top comic. He happens to be a police officer.
I know. Does he Montaj?
No, EZ at the end.
Okay, there's one guy, Vinny, and they spelled his name wrong on his birth certificate. He used to do a bit about that. So
I don't know.
They spelled it. I think it was VINNQ instead of an E, and they just kept it. I thought that might have been the guy. So I'm sure so many comics out there.
But anyways, he does these tours with other police officers, and they are selling out huge places. Then I know some younger kids who are doing it like a teacher's tour.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And they're killing it. They're like one kid in a Denver scene just got onto this tour and instantly had like 10,000 Instagram followers and is performing for like 10,000 people at a show. Like it's wild. Those niches.
I want to slit my wrist and die, Mark. That's no. I'm happy for those people, but it's so not fair. And you think, okay, you put in your time, you put in your years, you get your. There is no guarantee whatsoever.
No,
and it's sad because I'm on the wrong end of that.
There isn't. Well, I mean, I don't know you super well, but well, let's talk about your Ferguson in a little bit. But you're clearly very funny. And there's like a bar. And once you can get above that bar, you're absolutely right. It's not really fair what people get. And that's just, it seems to be part of the business. You got to just kind of roll with the punches and hope for the
Totally is.
best.
You know, Brian Regan, I think, is only starting to get the recognition I thought he deserved 25 years ago. You know, clean cut guy, and just, you know, who comics think are funny and great is not always who the public thinks are that way.
Are
And
you being
it's not
funny right now? Or are you serious?
Brian Regan?
Yeah. I mean, he's incredible. He's like selling out. He's making millions of dollars a year.
No, he is, but I'm saying it's to the point where it took way longer than it should have, in my opinion.
Oh, okay. Fair.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you know his brother Dennis by any chance?
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Dennis, great guy.
And I did a lot of Florida work back in the 90s, and I worked with Brian in Chicago, but Dennis in Florida. And I think they're from Florida.
Dennis
and
is super funny.
There's oh yeah, absolutely. As is Brian, both great guys.
Yeah.
But I think there's 2 comedians in the family, 2 lawyers, or there's a bunch of kids and two.
Yeah, they all paired up. Huh.
Yeah, but I'm saying to really explode with the public, and I've heard this theory said, and I don't know who said it. I'd give them credit, but the public has room for 2, maybe 3 comedians in their head, their collective consciousness.
Yeah.
Out of
thousands. I mean, you
comedians.
asked like, you know, I run shows all the time, and I have lots of unsophisticated comedy audience members that I talk to. I ask them, you know, what do you like? What you'll say like, you know, who's one of your favorite comedians? They might say like, well, Tom Cruise was in a very funny movie. You know, they just have no idea. And name 5 comedians, you're going to get 3 that are dead already.
You talk to people my age. Who's your favorite comedian? John Belushi. Okay, he died in '82. Johnny Carson. He wasn't even necessarily a comedian.
Sure.
Exactly. Bill Murray. Well, he's alive, but he's a comic actor.
Right. Exactly. It's a tough business, man. You look at the top, and it's like, what are we grinding for? Like, what is the ultimate goal? So
I've always thought to have a niche, like that's why I got into morning radio. Well, that's another sidetrack that I got fired in all 4 time zones in America. But in theory, like communism, it sounds great on paper. And I thought, to be in a town and to have a following that'll come out and see you. And every town I was in, it started, and then about a year into it, they'd always change stations and formats, and I'm out. But a lot of guys have done well. There's a guy, Dino Tripodis in Columbus, Ohio. I don't know if you know him, but he's a very funny comic. He got a radio job there. I think he's been there 25 years. Huh. Jerry Elliott's another guy, happened to be in Columbus.
It must be hard. How do radio guys do stand-up? Because you got to get up so early and be up late. Like, do people, or do they just not do stand-up while they're
every job I had, they said, no, you got a radio job. You're not going to do that stand-up, are you? Oh, no, I'd never do that. Wink, wink. So what I did, I would do stand-up, stay up all night, prepare for the show, and then get off at 9 or 10 in the morning and sleep all day.
So you're like on the night shift, basically.
Like the 4th shift almost. It's kind of a weird shift. But I found that was the best way for me to do it. Huh. But I mean, this is back a long time ago. There were times when I worked in Chicago that I would go as far as Cincinnati, which is maybe 300 miles. So I drive to Cincinnati, do a show, drive all night, do the radio show, and that got to the point where I liked doing it, but I was a lot younger then.
Yeah.
Comedy is a physical drain. And especially, here's something you might want to talk about. Most comedians don't have a physical fitness program of any kind. Do you? I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No. It's a good question. I've been thinking about it a lot recently because I've been gaining weight and trying to lose weight. I mean, I look kind of skinny, but it impacts everybody. And I just did a road trip to Florida where I did 11 days. I drove the whole way, 10 shows in 9 different states, and I exercised every single day.
Good for you.
Half an hour. So it was very purposeful. Like, look, if I'm gone for 11 days, like you're eating crappy fast. If you're not careful and pay attention to your health, you can get very unhealthy on the road. It's very easy to just be like, I'm not feeling great. Let me get a milkshake. That'll perk me up.
I'm surprised more comics aren't dead, because the heaviest thing you lift is either a microphone or a supersized big gulp drink, which is usually Pepsi, or other things. And then you eat fast food places. Oh, I just got to drive through because I got to drive 400 miles.
Yeah.
And in the last, this is day, I believe 620, I have walked a minimum of 5 miles a day. That's 10,000 steps.
That's incredible.
It is incredible. Great. I dropped about 25 pounds. Now it's such a part of my life now. 7 days a week. I don't miss. I don't know what to do if I didn't do that.
Yeah. When do you do it? Early,
I,
late?
I try to be done early in the morning. Like this morning, I was done before 9 a.m. That's my goal, but that's not always realistic. Especially, I live near Chicago, so it's wintry. So
Yeah.
about 4 or 5 months a year, I have to go in a Home Depot or a large, box store, or a Walmart or something. I got
You're
about
walking
6
the
or 7.
malls with old people.
Well, they don't. That's the thing. After COVID, they locked the malls. Used to be able to go in at 6, 7 in the morning. I was the youngest of the old farts. I could kick anyone's butt in there. It's like, you want a piece of me, Gus? Let's go. But it's funny. But now it opens when the mall opens, so you can't do that anymore.
Oh,
So
interesting.
with ice and snow factors, I go to different stores because I don't want to be the designated shoplifter. Hey, that guy's
Right.
walking in here at 6 in the morning
Yeah,
every day.
exactly.
But most people, they expect us. I just hate to get
You
my
know,
steps in.
Speaking of road stuff, and it just as like a PSA, I have no idea if this is a true story or not, but I heard this secondhand that a touring comic was on a long drive, drove like 10, 12 hours, something like that, and basically had almost a stroke from their calves, like some thrombosis or something, like just from sitting in the chair for too long.
That doesn't surprise me, and I would bet it's true. And I'm surprised, sadly, that it hasn't happened more.
Yeah. So like I've heard comics talk about getting compression socks, and I like whenever I'm filling up my car with gas, I do like jumping jacks and kind of run around a little bit to kind of stretch out.
Well, no, that you laugh. It's not funny at all, because most comics in the 80s, when I started out, most of the comics were between 22 and 32.
Okay.
They just were, because it was a new industry and it was fresh, like minor league baseball. You hear stories how they party all night and stuff. Like, well, there comes a time, and it doesn't sneak up on you. It's just one day. It's like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised more comics aren't dead, because nobody, eats what 99.999% of comedians don't eat well. And what I've always liked to do is try the local and regional foods wherever I am.
Yeah.
Like Denver, I've never performed there. I've only been through there a few times. And are there any regional places in Denver?
Oh, there's a lot, like Rocky Mountain oysters are famous.
Yeah, I've had that.
Or like cow balls.
I spit them out after the first bite. Hey, these aren't bad. What? It's what? But yes, I have had them.
Yeah. And on like we were talking, not to make this a whole Hispanic episode, but the Mexican food is terrific in Colorado. We got Casa Bonita that's very popular, owned by Trey and Matt Stone, who started South Park.
It's funny. I was trying to rank the ethnic foods, because Italian's pretty good. I'm from Wisconsin. A lot of Germans there. German food's good. Mexican food is excellent.
Yeah.
And Chinese, Asian. A lot
Ever
of
had
Asian.
Ethiopian food?
It's funny you should bring that up. I lived in Los Angeles for about a year, and this is way back in the time where Ethiopian jokes, that as cruel as people can be. What's the fastest land animal? An Ethiopian chicken. Ha ha ha. Cruel if it's not you. And I lived in LA, at Wilshire and Fairfax, if you know LA, and there was an Ethiopian restaurant near me. And I thought, oh, that's just got to be a joke. I got to go in there. Buddy, it was vegetarian based, and some of the best food I've ever had.
Incredible. That bread, that spongy bread is so good.
Oh my God, it was delicious. And the people there were so friendly, and I would just go in there and wave. I didn't know 3 words they said, and they probably didn't know 3 words I said, but I would point to the number of the on the menu that I wanted the picture. And nice people, great food, highly recommended. I think a smart business person should get an Ethiopian chain going somewhere, because people would love it.
Yeah,
good food.
It's terrific.
Nice people too.
Let's rewind back to let's go back. So you're near Chicago.
Right outside.
Okay, just outside of Chicago. And when did you start doing comedy?
1983, November of 1983. As we are recording this episode, it's going down in history. 40 years since my first open mic.
Incredible.
And I did about 57 in a row before I got my first paid gig. How much was your first paid gig? How much time did you do? And how much did you get? I like to ask comics this.
10 minutes and I got paid $20.
See, inflationary. I did 10 minutes and I got $10. I got a soggy 5 and 5 ones. And you know what? I years later, I apologized to the booker. I said I should pay that money back, because that was absolutely horrible. How did yours go? Mine was just absolutely.
I was really bad. I had about 2 minutes of material. I did not have 10 for sure.
You probably had twice as much as I.
And it was just a bad. This was pre-COVID, but it was an outdoor show, which is never good. And it was not great.
Here's a tip I want to give to comedians, if that's cool. Yeah. And I don't claim to know everything, but this I do know. Everybody that does their first time in any slot, first paid gig for 10 minutes, first time hosting, first time featuring, first time closing a show, you're not ready for it. And that's everybody. The best comedians in the world were. The first time I featured was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at a Funny Bone there, which is now closed. And I was supposed to do, I think, 25 to 30 minutes. I think I got 17 or 18. And I just prematurely ejaculated. I did every joke I could think of. I was out of material, and I said goodnight. And the club owner was just a badass, not a nice guy. He got in my face and, hey, you're supposed to do 30, and I'm paying you to do 30. I just looked, I did nothing else. Oh, I thought the clock said, and So the headliner that day came up to me and said, hey, kid, and told me that same thing. He goes, I know it's your first week. I know you rattled you. It's Tuesday night. I'll cover the time. He goes, but someday you stay with this, you're going to be a headliner, and I want you to cover the time of the other kid coming up after you. So, and I've done that hundreds of times since, and I've had that same speech because it's nervous and you get gig and am I good enough? And sometimes you go up there and you nail it, but sometimes you don't. And that's normal. It happens to everybody. Just shake it off and brush it off. So if you know that, it takes a lot of the pressure off.
Yeah. I mean, I've done so many things that I wasn't prepared for.
Sure.
I think it's also important to caution people a little bit, not to bite off more than you can chew. Because we want, like, we can get into this. I bet you probably have stories about how the 80s boom ended. But like, yeah. I witness a lot of bad comedy, and it's bad comedy because people are doing more than they should. And then the problem for me is that those audience members might not come to one of my shows in the future because they're like, this comedy thing, it's not that great. You know what I'm saying?
No question about it. And there was bad comedy then too, but it was more novel, I think.
Yeah.
And there was not the internet. Now it's so much harder. This has not only revolutionized comedy, it has revolutionized the world.
Yeah.
So now it used to be, it's hard enough to write 5 minutes of stand-up comedy. Now everybody's got a funny meme. So there are thousands of people that have one funny meme, and people can go through them. And now comedians have to make even more of a headway and bust through all those memes. Is it fair?
Brutal.
No, but it's brutal and it's reality.
Yeah.
So what can you do to entertain an audience and make them? You got to put butts in seats. How can you get them to pay to come see you? That's hard. It really hard. And I wouldn't want to be starting today. I really wouldn't.
No. Let's talk about your Ferguson. So you started out 50 plus open mics, and somehow you ended up on TV.
Yeah, I became an opener. Then I became a feature. Then I became and I was really picky about using the word headliner, show closer. A headliner is something, but Mark Masters is here. Yeah, that's a headline. If they know your name, that's a headliner. Okay. A show closer, completely different. It's difficult. They don't know who you are, but you still bang them for 45 minutes after following 2 or maybe 3 other acts that might step on your premises, those kind of things. So it got to be the point where I'm a pretty good utility infielder. I like to host shows. I don't mind featuring. I don't try to blow the headliner off the stage. When I am the headliner, I talk fast. I'm a powerhouse, man. Bang, in a club, I take. So it happened that I was at Zanies in Chicago. There were 4 clubs at one time. That was the big place to work in Chicago. And they had one big showcase club where they had all the big stars would work. It's like a 500-seater. And Craig Ferguson was scheduled to come in from L.A. And I got a call. I wasn't even scheduled to work. And they said, hey, Craig Ferguson's plane is late. It's about 45 minutes from the airport to the suburb that the club was. And they said, we need you to come out because to do some time until he gets there. And I said, okay. So they started the show about 10 minutes late. And by the time I got on, I said, look, I want Craig Ferguson to be here as bad or worse than you do. The second he walks in the door, I will get him up here on the stage. Don't boo me. Don't do anything like this. I'm here to entertain. So I told the audience what was happening. So I had to do it was close to an hour. And there was a CBS liaison there, a woman who watched the show. And she was there for him. And Ferguson came in, did a great job, super nice guy, crowd loved him, everything. So she came up to me and said, oh, that was fantastic. I can't believe I've never seen anybody do something like that. So the green room happened to be the office for the club. There was no green room. So what I did was she was watching Craig Ferguson. I wouldn't recommend it, but I thought it was right. She had a purse that was the size of a canoe, this big old purse. I took one of my CDs, which CDs aren't even a thing anymore, and I wrote her a note. Thank you for the kind words you said. I'm sorry to invade your space, but I'm stuck here in the Midwest. I would love to be on Craig Ferguson's show. I'm just asking, can you please help me? So I put it in her purse, forgot about it. 2 weeks later, this is the booking agent from the Craig Ferguson show. We got your CD here, and we heard a good report about you in Chicago. Would you like to do the show? No, I'm busy. I'm booked in Duluth. I wouldn't like to do the show. Yes, I would love to do the show. Okay, well, when can you do it? Blah, blah. So we went back and forth, and one date didn't work for them. Then a date didn't work for me. And we went back and forth. Then I got a call. Yes, this is the new booker of the Craig Ferguson show. We got your name on here. And I got to be honest with you. I looked at some clips of you. I don't think you're right for our show. So it's like, well, what the other lady thought I was great. Yeah, I just don't think you're right. Okay. 6 months later, I get another call. Yes, this is the new booker of the Craig Ferguson show. We got your name on here. Would you like to do the show? Yes, I'd like to do. So we had to go through all this. And since we couldn't get a date together, I'm thinking, all right, this is like 2 years. So another 3 months go by. I get an email from the very first woman that booked. Hey, I'm back at my old job. I just did some other things. Let's get you on the show. Let's get a date. So the date was July the 22nd is when they recorded it. Okay. It didn't play until the following March 10th. Okay. Whoa. So it was in the can. Yeah. And people, I told people I did it. Oh, you didn't do it. How come you're not on? I don't know. They did it. I know I went out there. I got my plane ticket. I got the hotel receipt. I did it. So they did put it on the air, and it was what an experience. But it took almost 3 years for all that stuff to go to get 1 5-minute spot. Very difficult.
That's wild. Did that credit help your career at that point?
Absolutely not. Nothing. And it's one of those things where, yes, is it nice? I get some local stuff. You know, that was probably 2000 and I don't know, 10 or 11, 12, something like that. So we're talking over 10 years now. So do I send it out? I don't do the material, most of that anymore. I mean, a couple of it. Oh, but he says, hey, we got a guy from Milwaukee. They make beer there. Yeah. So have Craig Ferguson. That is what the juice is. But I totally need a new credit. How do you get that? Very, very tough, especially with all the comics. Just because you're funny doesn't mean you won't get on. Will get on TV. That's tough, man.
It is a tough business.
What's your biggest credit? I'm not trying to insult you.
No, I got nothing. I mean, what I tell everybody is AWE Network and Outside TV are my 2 credits. You've never heard of either of them. I've been on both of them. I am going in April. I'm filming like a public access kind of variety show that airs on an ABC affiliate in New England.
Okay.
So it's like a late night spot. It's a 5-minute clean thing. So yeah, credits are tough.
Credits are tough. Friendly advice to you.
My best credit, Dobie, is I'm reliable and I will do your show. And that works in Glasgow, Montana, and Duluth, Minnesota, and I get invited back year after year. I show up. I'm polite and courteous, and I'm funny on stage, and I'm good with the audience. And I collect email addresses. And the next year, 2 or 3 people come back to see me. And the year after that, 6 to 10 people might come back to see me.
And that makes a difference, especially on a one-nighter, and especially if they mention your name. Hey, is Mark Masters here today? Rather than, hey, I want to shoot pool and heckle some stupid comic I don't know. Big difference, smart business. And I didn't do that back then. And I'll say it because we didn't have to. Am I saying it's not important? No, I'm not saying that. We were spoiled in our generation because we thought we're the draw, man. They're coming to see us. No, they're coming to see Funny Bone, Punchline, Zanies, Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle in Detroit. That's who they're coming to see. We were interchangeable parts. Didn't realize that until it was way too late. So you're on a smart streak before you know it. So good for you.
Well, we'll see.
No,
I'm definitely on a streak of driving.
That's the thing too. Okay, let me ask you this. Let's talk about, because it is Christmas, and if hopefully comics are going to get gifts and they'll be going out. What are some driving tips, pastimes? What do you do to car maintenance tips?
Yeah, sure. Audiobooks are the best.
Love them.
You get them from the library for free. Hoopla, Libby. Some of the more popular books, you got to wait in line like 3 weeks to get them. But, I'm constantly, anytime I hear about a good book, I'll request it from the library. And then when I go on a long trip, I got a bunch to choose from. Podcasts are great. I'm a little bit crazy. I will do an hour of material into my phone while driving and then listen back to it and take notes. That's a great way to kill 2 hours.
Agree totally. No, I mean, you're bringing up a lot of things that, comedians make fun of them. And through the years, podcasts weren't available. Maybe you could listen. I went to Goodwill's and bought cassettes or CDs as it evolved. So you get some
around before cruise control.
I had a covered wagon. Exactly. You put the horse on cruise control. Yeah. But it was a different time. It's funny. The Ford Escort, which they haven't made in how many years. The comics joke used to be, oh, you're a comedian. What color is your Ford Escort?
Yeah.
because that was a cheap thing. And then I got Chevy Cavalier, those road cars. What's your road vehicle? Let me ask you that.
Yeah.
Every comedian needs one.
It's a Super Outback.
Mhm.
And I sleep in the back of it. It's great. I like a full mattress. I'm about 6'1". I can sleep completely. I block out all the windows. It's great.
No, good for you. And
Very
again,
good. 317,000 miles on it.
that is your third testicle, as they say. As a comedian, you got to change the oil on your car.
Yeah,
you got to, whether you're
I take
mechanical
good
or
care
not.
of it. I put money into it. I just replaced the head gasket, which was pretty expensive.
It is expensive.
I found a guy at a show who does like half price mechanical work in his driveway. He's a bit of a character, but he's incredible. He's honest. He's fair. And he's helped my car get an extra like 50,000 miles so far after it should have been dead. So that's important. Find a good mechanic.
Well, exactly. And a source of vehicles is always a good thing too, I think. And there's a guy named Mark Klein out of Louisville, Kentucky. He was one of my mentors. Great guy, very insightful. And he's very business-like. He says, go to a dealership and you look for something, a 10-year-old, like a larger car, Toyota Camry, those kind of things. And you look for a dealership that it's not. So you go to a Honda dealer, look for a Toyota because they want to get it out cheaper. It's 10 years old, still a quality car. And there's just some tips there for scoring something because no comedian can afford a new car. None that I know. And if you can, you're flying to gigs.
Right. Yeah.
So know how to get a nice, reliable car. Like how new was yours when you bought it?
It had 90,000 miles on it, but it was only 2 years old.
That's perfect.
So it was like old and new.
Perfect comedy car because they run forever. Very, very good. These are things that people don't realize when you get into business. Well, if I'm just funny enough, I'll be a big star. No, that's just the pebble. There's so many other things to think about on stage and off.
Do you still write regularly?
I write 7 days a week. It's not necessarily comedy, but my mind is on. I find this, and I will recommend this to all, not only comedians, but creative types. When you get up in the morning, and if you sleep silent, now with my walking, I'm sleeping even sounder. I'm resting more, dreaming more. So I say the first 5 to 10 minutes, I just let as the dreams go away, the ideas, I'll sift them off like cream off milk. And I find that maybe some of them aren't useful, but a lot of them, there's fully realized jokes and ideas for bits and concepts I haven't thought of because your brain is still working the entire time. And I think that's the best time to mine ideas, in my opinion. I've done it for years.
Nice.
Now, do you have all your material written out? Let me ask you that.
I do. I try and write it all in Google Docs so I can search it later. Something just drove me crazy. I had a crowd work thing and the person was talking about Ozark and the TV show. And I have an Ozark joke and I couldn't think of it on stage. And then that night I got on my laptop and I could not find it. So I used to do this joke regularly. And for some reason, I never typed it into my compendium of jokes. And it's driving me a little bit crazy not being able to remember that joke. Right.
Well, I think it's good to have access to your full body of work, even though you don't do everything every night.
Yeah.
Now, I'm old school. I like a 3-ring binder. I like that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. People lose phones. People lose binders too. I don't know how many times I've been in a green room somewhere through the years, and I found a notebook full of notes, scribbly written, no name, no phone number, no email address, a full notebook. Some comedian is having a coronary looking for it, and it's like, I don't even know who to return this to.
Yeah.
That has happened at least a dozen times. So be careful on that's part of you as well. Like your vehicle, your notes is your lifeblood. Don't say, well, I'll remember. No, you won't.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question about good rooms and bad rooms. What's the worst place you ever performed and what makes a good comedy room?
The South. God, I hate the South. and I mean that in a friendly and a customer service kind of a way on Christmas. No, people have different speech patterns. Now you say you grew up in New England, pack the car and the yard and stuff. There's different vibes. There's different words. Some people say pop, some people say soda, those kind of things. That's why it takes a comedian such a long time to develop, because if you're not in a rhythm of a certain region, you're not going to communicate with them. And it's very, very important. People say, there's some regional comedians that never leave the South. They can't go north of Cincinnati. I don't want to go south of Cincinnati. First time I worked in Nashville, Tennessee, I got off stage and the owner came up to me and said, 2 words, Yankee, slow down. Okay. I mean, I'm bang, bang, bang. And that's just how it is. And you got to learn to adjust. It's like an NFL quarterback. You got to learn to audible at the line of scrimmage. For example, when I first went on the road, I had a big bit about shoveling snow and snowball fights and things like that. Well, I'm working in North Carolina and Georgia. They don't have snow down there. So I'm supposed to do 15 minutes and 8 of it is snowball fights. Well, that ain't working. So where do I like? I like people that are like me. I call myself the king of the Rust Belt. Detroit, Pittsburgh, Chicago, Indianapolis, not so much Milwaukee, the Great Lakes, Rust Belts. I kick ass in those cities. Buffalo, New York, I am God. Yeah. Because I'm like those people. I'm frustrated, the whole that. But then you go some other places. Cruise ships, I think, are a great educator because those people are not comedy fans. They're walking around. Oh, hey, there's a band playing in there. Oh, hey, there's a buffet in there. Oh, there's some guys talking. Let's go look at that. They didn't pay to get in. They just kind of sit down. They've been drinking all day. Try to get cruise ship audiences. And they're from all over the country, too. They're not all from one place. That's why Vegas could be difficult. Did you ever play Vegas?
Only small stuff, but I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm saying? It's not a, hey, this is a New England crowd. You do a clam chowder joke. Everybody gets it. Yeah. That's easy. You got to be a comedian when it's not easy. That's the challenge.
I run some shows in tourist towns that are kind of similar.
Sure.
There's going to be 25% of the audience that's local, but the other 75%, they're from all over the country. Have you done cruise ships?
Absolutely. It's somebody said it. I'll give him credit. I don't know who said it. It's prison with a buffet. That's what I've heard said that. And it couldn't be any more. I can't stand it. The first time I ever worked a cruise ship, I was on Carnival, which is Walmart on water. And I'm sorry, I got it. That's the bottom rung. Okay. And I got in my room, and the first piece of paper I noticed, to all comedians, don't make fun of the shootings. That's all it said. It's like, I don't know what week it was, how long it's been there. I'm thinking, welcome to the jungle, baby.
Good Lord.
I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't my thing, but a lot of comics have found their niche there. They enjoy it.
Yeah. All right, we got to wrap this up. What an incredible conversation.
Merry Christmas, man. Thanks for having me.
Merry Christmas. So you got the Maxwell method. Can you talk about that real quick?
Yes, please. It's a Facebook group called the Maxwell Method of Stand-Up Comedy. I don't claim to know everything. In fact, I know not a lot, but there's things I've been through the wars, and I like to help comedians coming up the ranks. It's nice to have a place where they can ask questions without fear of ridicule of being mocked. You know, I was afraid to talk to the headliners when I started. It's like we have a great group there. There's veterans like Jimmy Brogan, who was head writer for Jay Leno's Tonight Show for a long time, and Mark Klein I talked about. A lot of good veterans. Ross Bennett is a great guy, been on Letterman. And newbies like yourself, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, aspiring comedians. I mean, how many years have you been doing it?
5 years.
See, you are a perfect candidate for the Maxwell Method because you've been out there and you get it. And I do a question of the day, and I try to do just some things that on stage and off, like we talked about today. So I'm not trying to sell you Amway. Anybody sign up, the Maxwell Method of Stand-Up Comedy. And if anybody does, I've got a whole list of articles I've written over the years. I will send it to you free. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. It's timed release. You read it at 5 years in. Hey, there's good stuff here. Next year, there's stuff that I wasn't ready for yet. So I put my heart and soul in it, and it's free.
You're incredible, Dobie. A lot of fun talking to you. Everybody check out Dobie Maxwell on Facebook. And when you're in the Milwaukee, Chicago, Rust Belt area, try and find him at a local.
Actually, I'm coming to Denver in April, working for James R. Zingelman. So let's get together. Lunch on me, man. We'll go to a Mexican joint.
Well, I'm about to end this and let's chat about that offline. Thank you, everybody. Merry Christmas to everybody. And we'll be back next Monday, I think, with a live episode, unless it's New Year's, which sneaks up on me every year. Somehow they're always 7 days apart, but we'll figure that out. Every Monday, Always Bookin Comedy. Mark Masters, thank you.